Here's how I think Jax entering the circus would have went down. Now, I actually, if you don't know the lore, you might if you had watched the video, but a while ago I had talked about me making a visual novel type of game that was kind of horror-esque and kind of dived into the psyche of Jax. It is the short version of that. And a really big thing about this game was like trying to figure out some Jax lore, which I thought was happening in episode 8. Was not the case. A lot of stuff was swatched around. But I was working on a game, and I had not touched it since like February. But I was working on a game, and one of the things that I was working on was like a lot of stuff surrounding like Jax lore, and like more or less just having fun with what could be Jax lore. Like him entering the circus, like his and Ribbit's relationship, his and Kaufmo's relationship, how he interacted with other members of the circus, etc., etc. One of the things that I kind of had in the script, from what I remember, is I think Jax had entered the circus when everyone but Ribbit was on an adventure. Because I like to think of it as Ribbit, and I don't believe Ribbit is similar personality-wise to Zooble, but I like to think that Ribbit was kind of going through a time where Ribbit wasn't, like, joining in on the adventures. They were just kind of, like, chilling in her room type of thing. So Ribbit's kind of, like, at a more all-time low, and I like the idea that Jax enters the circus right around that descent for Ribbit mentally, and then that kind of, like, adds something to Ribbit's life until something happens and takes that away. So I really like the idea that Jax enters the circus, and obviously, like, I think at this point it would be more mask off for him at this time, because I think he would have a similar reaction, if not a worse reaction, to when Pomni joins the circus. Because there is for the awards ceremony promotional thing, one of the promo things was with Zooble and Jax, and Zooble had freaked Jax out to the point where he literally got physically sick and vomited. So I kind of like the idea that when Jax enters the circus, I had it in the game where he actually no, I don't want to spoil that if I ever get that done. Well, I'm not gonna get that done in 3 months, that's true. Well, basically how I had it in the game was that he actually somehow lands or fumbles on top of Ribbit, and Ribbit's like, "Ow! Get your off of me!" Meanwhile, Jax is like, "What's happening? What's going on? Where am I? Who are you? Why are you a frog?" Like, he's like going through the 10 stages of what the fudge is happening. He gets off of Ribbit, and then he's like probably panicking. I don't know if he would be like having a panic attack, but I like the idea that he's like panicking, he gets sick, and he just he just passes out, right? So then Ribbit is left to her own devices to take Jax and take him to his room. And I kind of like the idea that that's how Ribbit sees Jax's room. We're just getting into the game spoilers, I guess, man. Time skip, because Jax is asleep during this time. He wakes up, he looks up, and he sees all the stars on the ceiling. And he is kind of like, like, oh, wow. And Ribbit says something that'll cause him to, like, jump up and out of, like, his bed where they had put him. "Nice room you got. Like the colors." And, like, not make fun of Jax for his room, because I think that Ribbit would be chill like that. "Sorry, didn't mean to startle ya." And this is where reality is kind of slowly setting in for Jax, where he's like, why is there a talking frog? Where am I? What is happening? And like, he will not be doing okay. Kind of gonna bombard Ribbit with a bunch of questions like, where am I? What is going on? And I think at this point, I don't know how Jax's cussing life would have been like pre-circus, but I like the idea that Jax actually does have, not a sailor mouth, but he's willing to say the F word. I mean, obviously in like, it's obvious, like, he's willing to cuss in like episode 6. So he's cussing, but then he's like, what? Because he gets censored, and then Ribbit has to explain, oh yeah, censors. Pain in the butt, right? And then they kind of like talk with each other about, Ribbit's like, you have questions, ask away. And Jax asks a bunch of questions. And then once Jax is kind of done with that, Ribbit will have like some stupid nickname for Jax. And I think that it would be cool if like Jax got that trait from, I'm sorry, my throat. I think it would be funny if Jax got the nicknaming trait from Ribbit. So Ribbit would say something like, "Tarn, all out of questions, bunny boy?" And he would be like, "Why do you keep calling me that?" And then Ribbit will be like, "Oh, you don't know." And she would point to a mirror, to which Jax would turn around, walk up to the mirror. And the way that I have it in the game, he does a sort of like Tenna moment when Tenna sees like Spamton, where he's like, "What, ha, he, what, I, you, why, I." He'd have a similar reaction, I think, to like when he was put in the maid outfit. Because I feel like Jax has conditioned himself to like, not necessarily accept his avatar, but like, he has, what is he gonna do, you know? At that point, Jax is still kind of like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm stuck with. And Ribbit is kind of, I feel like Ribbit's a pretty... I feel like Ribbit's a pretty chill fella. I think Ribbit would kind of be the one to help ground Jax in the circus. And meanwhile, Jax kind of gives Ribbit something new and interesting to engage with. So at this point, Ribbit would say something like, "You want to go meet everybody? I think they'd be back from their last adventure by now." And Jax would be like, "Everybody? You mean there's more people here?" And then... and then Jax would meet Kane. That would not go well for Jax. I don't know if it'd be similar to that of like when Pomni entered the circus, but I think for Jax, it would be like that, but times 10. I think it would be like really dramatic responses until he kind of coaxes himself into putting on that mask. You know what I mean? So I think his first initial reactions are going to be very screamy, very like, "What the frick is happening?" And yeah, I think that's probably kind of, I like to think that that's how things would go down, because I think it'd be just interesting if it went down that way. Where Jax and Ribbit were kind of the only ones to have first impressions of each other like that. But what do I know? It would also kind of make sense if Ribbit was kind of the one to, like, really help Jax, because Jax very clearly has very close ties with Ribbit. Like, based off of just, like, the torture sequence that he had, Ribbit's first, Pomni's second, Kaufmo's third. I have no idea who else is where. So Ribbit was like a really big deal for Jax, and I think that a moment like that where Ribbit kind of helps Jax overcome something as big as, especially as like, yeah, you're stuck in a basically digital hell, that would have been really important. Like, that would have been psychologically like impactful on Jax. And then Ribbit friggin' died. And anyways, that's my 2 cents on how Jax entered the circus and how that went down. I don't know how much of that I'll save, because some of that does get into spoilers for... Actually, no, it doesn't even matter, because there's no shot I finish that. Even if I worked on it consistently, there's no shot I finish that in that amount of time. The most that I would finish would be like, if I wanted to do everything that I wanted to do with it, the most that I would finish would be like I could get a game demo running. That's it. Considering how little I've worked on it, though, what's probably going to end up happening, if I did work on it, I would just do the nightmare segments like I originally planned. This isn't about that. Yeah.